Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Hail Mary,
Full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
So good evening, everyone. That was nice. I just get it like this. Okay.
Because I got blessed by Father Miguel.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so basically last week or the other week, we looked at the sign of the cross. Okay? The importance of the sign of the cross. So it's always powerful. As you know, the devil always works by way of fear. That's why Jesus constantly tells his disciples, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, because fear doesn't come from God. Okay? Now there's a difference between fear and concern. Okay? That if I'm not being responsible, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, I should be concerned about the situation. Okay? But fear per se as something that just to be afraid comes from the evil one. And he uses it as an instrument to basically kill trust in God, to kill our faith. So we should always not succumb to fear. So that one of the most effective ways not to give in to fear is to make the sign of the cross when we are afraid. Because the devil is afraid of the cross. So if we truly mean it and we are attentive to what we are doing, okay? So usually in our prayers, okay, when we conclude our prayers like night prayers, we say, may the Lord bless us, protect us from all evil, and bring us to everlasting life. Okay? So may the Lord bless us. So it's like God will bless me. God cannot refuse to bless us. Okay? Bless you. I'm not sure. You did something. Yeah? God wants to bless us so that we may do His will. So may the Lord bless us, protect us from all evil, and bring us to life everlasting life. Okay? But bless us and protect us from evil. So we should basically be consciously aware of that as we make the sign of the cross. That prevents us from giving in to fear. When we are afraid, then the devil basically uses, it's like a crack within the wall. Once you are afraid, the devil will just step in and they try to break us down. Okay? So the sign of the cross is very, very important in that regard. But also to help us to develop a profound relationship with each person of the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So that's why we begin all our prayers with the sign of the Trinity. Okay? Now, postures, kneeling or prostration. There is a priest who made it a rule not to see anybody prostrate themselves or kneel on two knees before the Blessed Sacrament. It was like that. To him, that was sacrilegious. You don't do that. Okay? And basically, he discouraged the people for doing it. Okay? So we are going to look at. Remember, as we look at these postures, especially kneeling, prostration. Okay? We have to. There's no chairs here. We have to remember this. Okay? That when Jesus Christ came among us, He came to teach us how to be truly human. Okay? And what our attitude should be. Okay? So what is my attitude toward God? So if I want to see how to stand right, okay, to be right before God, where do I look? I look at the humanity of Jesus Christ. I look at the incarnate God. Because He became incarnate for that very purpose. to teach us how to come before God. What is the right attitude before my God? Okay? What is the right attitude before my God? I look at what Jesus Christ did, what he said. Okay? So, there have been many people who want to talk others out of kneeling. And these are not few. That's why you can go to some churches that because of practical purposes, not because they don't have money, but they are not kneelers. Because you shouldn't kneel. There are some churches that are like that. Fortunately, there are not many. But they are there. So sometimes these people, they give culture reasons like it does not suit our culture where it is not right for a grown-up man to do this. We are grown-up, so we don't kneel. Okay? We should face God on his feet. Okay? That we should be on our feet, okay? As if God were our equal. Other times, they give confused, superfluous theological reasons as such as it is not appropriate for redeemed man set free by Christ to kneel anymore. Those are some of the reasons they give. We are free, we are redeemed, so why do we have to kneel? Kneeling is a posture of a slave. So we are free, so we don't kneel anymore. We just stand before God. Now that standing is not the right posture of prayer. Okay? But also kneeling and prostration is a right posture of prayer as well. And they all speak of something, as we're going to see. So many in the Greek culture resented kneeling, the Greeks. Aristotle himself called it a barbaric form of behavior. And St. Augustine agreed in some sense with him in a certain respect. Okay? So St. Augustine teaches that the false gods the Greeks worshipped were only the masks of demons who subjected men to the worship of money and to self-seeking, thus making them servile and superstitious. Okay? So that's why St. Augustine, analyzing why the Greeks resented kneeling, he came to that right conclusion. So that the gods they worshipped were not really gods. Yet they are demons masking themselves as gods. And so if you kneel to them, you're really kneeling to the devil anyway. So he says that the humility of Christ and his love, which went as far as the cross, have freed us from these powers. We now kneel before that humility. So that's what St. Augustine says. It's not like the Greeks that we shouldn't kneel before anyone, okay? But he says that now we have been freed from the demonic powers. When we kneel, we are not doing the Greek thing of kneeling before demons, masking themselves or masquerading as God or gods. But we kneel before the humility of God. Okay? So, the kneeling of Christians is not a form of enculturation into existing customs. It is quite the opposite, an expression of Christian culture which transforms the existing culture through a new and a deeper knowledge and experience of God. So basically here to explain briefly about the culture of the faith, it's always very important. I think we looked at this briefly one time, I can't remember whether with this session or the morning one. We have our human cultures, okay? Culture is a form of philosophy. Like the way we perceive reality, the way we see things. It may be, a kind of loose kind of philosophy, but it's a philosophy. The way of understanding things. So you cannot say that that particular culture is, stupid or whatever. In every culture, there are good things and stupid things. So that's why Revelation needs to purify our cultures. But culture is a way of philosophy, a way of learning, a way of understanding reality, perceiving or receiving reality. So God comes to us, then He rains down His revelation. what it says about itself. So when Revelation hits our culture, culture acts as the background upon which divine revelation is reflected. In other words, God gave us the gift of our cultures to be backgrounds basically upon which He reflects revelation or way of perceiving Him. Because where we grow up, the realities of our surroundings are the way we understand things. So God is going to come in that way. He's not going to come to us like if we live here. He is not going to demand us to embrace, let's say, a Hindu kind of culture. We are not there. We don't know what they are. We don't know what they do. We don't know their culture or their way of receiving reality. So God will come to us the way we are, but then He comes to transform. The difficulty in our day and age is to think that our cultures are everything. Our way of understanding, perceiving reality is everything. So that when revelation comes in, it has to bend to culture. No, it is culture that has to bend to revelation. So that culture discards what is good, removes what is bad, retains what is good, and then grow into the understanding of God. So every culture, every form of philosophy is purified by divine revelation. There is no human philosophy, no human culture that is perfect and is in no need of purification. It's not there. But at the same time, divine revelation does not sweep away culture. Because when you sweep away culture or philosophy, basically you are taking away the background upon which people stand, upon which they perceive reality. Then when you sweep it away, revelation will have a background upon which to reflect itself. Okay? So culture is very important. But when we allow our cultures to be transformed by divine revelation as Catholics, then we develop a Catholic culture, a way of doing things as Catholics, as Christians. That's why even if you don't understand a particular language, but you go to a certain part of the world, particular part of the world, and they are celebrating Mass, if it's the Roman Rite, and if they're doing it right, you know what is going on. Even if you don't understand the language. Because you know the culture, we have a culture. And you see that we are at this part, although I don't understand what they are saying. But you know the culture of the faith. So today, because we're losing even our culture, we are no longer very philosophical. In our day and age, we are losing really culture, being civil, civilization. We are losing it. We have to acknowledge that. Okay? So it's like, okay, who are we? What are we? How do we do things? Everybody wants to do things their own way. So it's not like we have a certain kind of philosophy, general philosophy. So because of this, we have also to recognize that we are also losing the Catholic culture, the culture of the faith. Everybody wants to do things their own way, because I'm free to do whatever I want. Okay, so we have to guard against that. Okay? So there is something we can call the culture of the faith. And that's why we are learning about these, postures, signs, and gestures, because they are part of our universal culture of the faith. And if we throw them away, then we don't have a background upon which to receive mystery. Okay? Again, this is the meaning also, tying this into what we call rituals. Okay? So we said before that in our liturgical language, a human being, there's what we call the language of mystery. It's part of the culture of the faith. The language of mystery. That language speaks. It's a different form of language. It's a language that drives us into the realm of the mystery, the realm of the divine. Without this language, you don't have a vehicle to drive you into the realm of God. Okay? So we have that language of rituals and rites, and because it's the language of mystery, it drives us into the realm of the divine. If you take away this language, you no longer have a vehicle to lead you into the mystery. Again, so that's why you notice also that now churches, some churches, they're trying to get rid of like rituals. Stripping the mystery bare. You basically, for example, you don't have statues in a church, you don't have icons, you don't have whatever. So the church looks like a hall. So when you enter the hall, the mystery is laid bare. There is not even a tabernacle in the sanctuary. Okay? So there is no sense of awe. There is no sense of wonder. And so you don't have the language, okay? The riches, the rights, and whatever. That's going to drive you into the realm of mystery. When you strip the mystery bare, you lose. The mystery is still there, but you lose the vehicle. You lose the means to get there, to connect, to relate, to mystery. Okay. So that's why we need rights and riches. And of course, this is very easy to see. Like when you go to UNLV to watch a basketball game, how do you dress like? When you go to watch the Rebels?
Red.
Why red? Yeah, why not wear blue or whatever? Yes.
Basketball colors are red.
Yes, the basketball colors are red. That's the ritual. Okay? So everyone goes, okay, because this is a ritual and they celebrate and they sing and there's music. There's music related to the ritual. So you don't wear red and just go there and go like it. How do you go when you go to the Rebels? How do they sing? Rebels. Okay, that's part of the ritual. Okay, and that's what makes fun. It's not like when you sing, you're playing basketball. The basketball players are over there, but it's part of the ritual that makes something very interesting. It's a special thing happening. Okay, so it's surrounded by rituals. Okay? So that is the language. So people will tell you rites and rituals are primitive. We don't need them. But when they go to these secular games, like you watching the Golden Knights and whatever, there are rituals involved in that. Why? Because it's a form of language, okay, that speaks a particular language, something to us humans. And when you take it away, okay, for example, Super Bowl, okay, we have so many games all through the season. And then it comes to Super Bowl. What's different about it? It is the same game, same time, same rules, same whatever. Why is it a big deal?
Go for it.
It's just another game, right? No. What makes it different from other games are the rituals that surround it. We build rituals, okay, and then we make it a big deal. But God is a big deal. Okay? And so all the rites, all the rituals humans can come up with in terms of reverence and worship, they have to surround the mystery. So it would be extremely foolish to take that language away. Whereby there's nothing that speaks to us. Okay? Okay, so we have to develop this language, okay? But the cultural language, okay? The culture of the faith. It is very, very important. When you take it away, you lose that sense of awe. There are some churches, like in Europe, where you go and enter. When you enter the church, you just have a feeling of, oh, wow. It's beautiful. God is beautiful. So that aesthetic sense has to be there. Okay? But some churches, you enter the church and you're like, it's like walking into Walmart, where's candy? Even when you enter Walmart, okay, it's amazing, no matter where you go, even if these are superstores, you know exactly where to go. Because they're all arranged the same way. Some a little bit, but most they try to arrange it in such a way that when you enter, you know the pharmacy is here, the groceries are over here, clothing is over there, everywhere. They are arranged in such a way so that when you enter, you know, the ritual of Walmart. It's a ritual. Yes. It's a routine way of doing things. If they did change these departments, you know, every week, probably they would lose many customers. Because you have to go, it's huge, and every time you go, everything is changed, whatever, so you have to look for things anew. Okay, so you take more time looking for things, you don't know where they are. But when you walk in, you know exactly where to go. No one would ever say, I'm tired of this routine at Walmart. You see what I mean? We said that about church. Oh, it's all the same, it's boring. Other things don't bore us, but they are routine. Why is church boring? Because we have a way of doing things which doesn't change. If the church is boring, you say, so this time we'll say the Our Father. What should we say next week? Because every time we go, okay, we pray as in our Lord, whatever, it's always the Our Father. Okay? So why don't we change that? Because it's boring. So that's why some churches, they make inventions to kind of make it exciting. But that's not what it is about. And things can be good, and you can enter into them and you can appreciate them, even if they are routine, if we understand the purpose and fall in love with them. When we shop, you know, like for me, I shop at Walmart. You know the reason why?
Blue.
Blue. We have a lot of blue. I love the color blue. Like I went to Smith, you know, a few weeks ago. Smith, they came up with yellow. And so it's not that if something is routine, therefore it's boring. No. If you understand it and fall in love with it, it's good. So we develop a culture, and this is the way we do things. And it is very good. So in every culture, in every human community, that thing is there. So we shouldn't resent rights and rituals in the church, claiming that, oh, they are very routine, we always do the same thing and whatever, so it's boring. Maybe we just say that we don't like it, or we don't understand it. Okay? So, developing a culture. So, kneeling does not come from any culture. It comes from the Bible and its knowledge of God. The Bible and its knowledge of God. The central importance, because some people say, well, kneeling comes from primitive cultures, okay? No, okay, that's ignorance. So the central importance of kneeling in the Bible can be seen in a very concrete way. The word proskenein, okay, the Greek word proskenein, alone occurs 59 times in the New Testament, 24 of which are in the Apocalypse, the book of Revelation, okay, the book of the heavenly liturgy. So that is very significant. The book of Revelation is about heavenly liturgy. And in that book, okay, we see the word kneeling, okay, occurring very many times. So the book of Revelation is the heavenly liturgy, which is presented to the church as the standard of her own liturgy. So if you want to understand what we do in the liturgy, we go to the book of Revelation, okay, as we will see. There are three closely related forms of posture. First, there is prostration, lying with one's face to the ground before the overwhelming power of God. Okay. Secondly, we're going to explain all this. Secondly, there is falling to one's knees before another. And thirdly, there is kneeling. Linguistically, the The three forms of posture are not always clearly distinguished. They can be combined or merged with one another. Examples of prostration: Joshua 5:15. Okay, you can look that up. In the case of the New Testament, we see our Lord Jesus Christ himself doing the prostration. We are told when he went with the disciples after the institution of the Eucharist, they go to the Kidron Valley to the Mount of Olives. Okay. The garden we call Gethsemane, okay, the wine press. And so he kneels, or he prostrates himself, as we will see. So Matthew 26:39, he had advanced a little and fell prostrate in prayer. Fell prostrate. That prostration now in the liturgy, we see it on Good Friday. When the priests come in, they prostrate themselves. All at ordinations. Okay? When the candidates, deacons prostrate themselves. Okay? So, saying, and then we know, okay, Father, if it's your will, take this away from me. Okay? Then we see in Mark 14:35, he advanced a little and fell to the ground and prayed thus. Okay? Jesus throws himself to the ground. Who is he praying to? His Father. Okay? But Jesus Christ is co-eternal with the Father. So he is divine. So why is he prostrating himself? Because he became man. And this is the attitude of man toward God, before the Almighty God. So in Luke's Gospel, Jesus prays on his knees. So after withdrawing about a stone's throw, he then, from then, and kneeling, he prayed saying. Okay? So we have all the three synoptic Gospels reporting Jesus either prostrating himself or kneeling to pray. So teaching us that kneeling or prostration is a right gesture, posture of prayer before the living God. So this prayer, the prayer by which Jesus enters into his passion, is an example for us, both as a gesture and in its content. The gesture, Jesus assumes, as it were, the fall of man, lets himself fall into man's fallenness. Okay? So remember that fall, okay? So the fall of man, okay? We are dust. Okay? So prayers to the Father out of the lowest depth of human dereliction and anguish. So in our anguish, who are banished children of Eve and Adam, we prostrate, we kneel before the Almighty God and ask him to lift us up from our misery, out of our misery. Okay. So he lays his will in the will of the Father's will, in the will of the Father's. Not my will, but yours be done. An act of humility before God. Okay. That my will is, your will should be my will. And now I succumb my will to yours. He takes up all the expression of the human will and endures it. Oftentimes, because of our pride, we refuse to surrender our will to the will of God. But in Jesus Christ, in his humanity, all the human will, all the hesitation, the stubbornness of the human will is basically gathered, collected, and it succumbs to the divine will and surrenders to the will of God. Okay? So whenever we kneel or prostrate ourselves, whatever the case may be, we have to be aware of what is happening. So it is this very conforming of the human will to the divine that is the heart of redemption. That's what redemption is. For the fall of man depends on the contradictions of wills, on the opposition of the human will to the divine, which the tempter leads man to think in the condition of his freedom, or is the condition of his freedom. So basically, the devil wants us to think that pride is our salvation. Pride is our freedom. So when I'm prideful, I'm freeing myself from servitude to the divine will. And therefore, I am free. But I didn't create myself. God created me. And God is the author, the creator of my will. So if my will is lived in opposition to the will of God, I cannot live. The devil didn't create me. God created me. So if I surrender my will to the will of God, then that's where lies my life and the freedom. But the devil wants us to think that it's the other way around. And the other way around is basically death, not freedom. So not my will, but yours. These are the words of truth. For God's will is not in opposition to our own, but the ground and the condition of its possibility. The ground of my will is the will of God, and it makes it possible. The divine will makes my will possible, because He is the creator. Only when our will rests in the will of God does it become truly will and truly free. The suffering and the struggle of Gethsemane is the struggle for this redemptive truth, for this uniting of what is divided, for the uniting that is communion with God. So in the church's liturgy today, prostration appears on two occasions, on Good Friday and at ordinations. On Good Friday, the day of the Lord's crucifixion, it is the fitting expression of our sense of shock at the fact that we, by our sins, share in the responsibility for the death of Christ. He died for my sins. So I share responsibility for His passion. Okay? So that's why I humble myself. We throw ourselves down and participate in His shock, in His descent into the depth of anguish. We throw ourselves down and so acknowledge where we are and who we are, fallen creatures whom only He can set on their feet. It's only God who can set me on my feet. So that's the gesture of prostration or kneeling. So without you, I cannot stand. So we throw ourselves down, as Jesus did, before the mystery of God's power present to us, knowing that the cross is the true burning bush, the place of the flame of God's love, which burns but does not destroy. Spirit of the Liturgy, page 188. Okay. So, secondly, that's prostration. And you can see sometimes in Eucharistic adoration, some people walk in and they prostrate themselves before the Blessed Sacrament. So never think that they are crazy. Okay? Because they are not. Today, any form of kind of reference is suspicious, is suspect. Or maybe, are they in their right mind? Why are they doing that? Because we don't know why they are doing it, so we think they are crazy, but they are not. Okay? So it's an acknowledgement that I'm fallen. And without you, God, I cannot be lifted up. You shared with it, basically I shared in your crucifixion by my sins. So I come before you, acknowledging myself as a sinner, and I ask you to lift me from the depth of my sinfulness. So no one can tell you that as a Christian, as a Catholic, as the people of God, that you can't prostrate yourself. Now, in the liturgy, as we have it now, there is no rite of prostration for us. It's not there. But if you are outside in Eucharistic adoration, and the circumstances allow that you're not going to inconvenience other people, and you want to make that gesture of prostration, it's not crazy to do it. Pope John Paul said that as human beings, a human being cannot give God too much reverence. Because sometimes some people think, oh, you are giving too much reverence. We cannot give God too much reverence. Why? Because He's God. Now we don't do crazy things. Like some people do some things and you say, well, what is that thing? Your mass is going on, they're going around touching statues. That's not good. It's not even reverent to do things like that. But within the normal limits of reverence, yes, we can prostrate ourselves when circumstances allow. Because it's a proper gesture of prayer. Jesus did it, and He left us an example of how to stand or to present ourselves before the mystery of God. Okay? So never think of it as crazy. Or no one should tell you that you are crazy because you did that. Okay? Secondly, there is the gesture of falling to one's knees before another, which is described 4 times in the Gospels. Here, the word is gonipetane. Okay? Gonipetane, which is not a proper act of adoration, but rather a supplication expressed fervently in bodily form, while showing a trust in a power beyond merely human. Okay? So the situation is different though with the classical word for adoration on one's knees, which is proskenein. The word proskenein occurs 11 times in the Gospel of John, of which 9 occurrences are found in Jesus' conversation with the Samaritan woman by Jacob's well in John chapter 4. Remember that conversation, okay, with the Samaritan woman. The people say, you worship here, you have ways, so you have no husband, even the one you have is not yours now, things like that. So this conversation is entirely devoted to the theme of worship. Remember, the woman says to Jesus, I see that you are a prophet. But you people say that you worship on that mountain over there, Jerusalem. Okay? And we worship on this mountain. So basically, who is right and whatever. So Jesus tells her, you don't know what you are worshiping. Okay? Salvation comes from the Jews. And then he goes on to explain to her what true worship is. But the discussion is about worship at the well. And it is indisputable that here, as elsewhere in John's Gospel, the word always has the meaning of worship. The spiritual and the bodily meanings of proskenein are really inseparable. The spiritual and the bodily. The bodily gesture itself is the bearer of the spiritual meaning, which is precisely that of worship. Without the worship, the bodily gesture would be meaningless, while the spiritual act must of its very nature, because of the psychosomatic nature, okay, unity of man, expresses itself in the bodily gesture. Okay? So, in other words, we have a soul, the mind, the intellect, and will. How do I know what the will of the other is? When they express it, if they are truthful, when they express it. And so, like if you want to do charity to people, it's not the body that tells us, go and do charity. It is the soul, the intellect, and the will. But the intellect and the will cannot go and do charity. It has to use the instrumentality of the body. Okay, so that composite nature of body and soul. So our gestures, bodily speaking, express the worship, our interior worship of the soul. So the body is very important in the act of worship. So the two aspects are united in the one word, because in a very profound way they belong together. When kneeling becomes merely external, a merely physical act, it becomes meaningless. Like sometimes you see when we enter churches, the way some of us genuflect. So it's like, what are you doing? And we think of what we are doing. Or bowing before the altar, people are just walking in. Okay. This is like, okay, do you understand what you're doing, or just doing it because you're supposed to? What is the idea behind the way you use your body? Because even people who see you can see that your mind is not there. You're just doing an external gesture, which seemingly you don't even know why you are doing it. Okay? Because we know your mind is not there. We're just doing things for the sake of doing it. So, on the other hand, when someone tries to take worship back into the purely spiritual realm and refuses to give it embodied form, the act of worship evaporates. For what is purely spiritual is inappropriate to the nature of man. Because man is not a pure spirit. We have a body and we have a soul. Okay? A soul is not like something simply trapped in the body. We are composite. That's who we are as human beings. So you cannot just do mechanical acts of worship. That's what Jesus addresses in Matthew 5 and 6. Okay? The Pharisees were simply doing externals. But if they want to give someone money, what they did was to take a trumpet. If you're passing by, like a group of people passing by, there's a poor person, you'll blow the trumpet. When everybody turns around, they okay? Literally speaking, okay? That's not good. Because we are doing mere externals. But at the same time, we cannot withdraw into a spirit that we don't really need the body is an inconvenience. Okay? So we just need a soul. There is no such a thing as a human being without a body. Okay? And the human body is not bad. If it were evil, Jesus wouldn't have become incarnate. Okay? The human body is good. It's so sad that people in this so-called sex revolution critique or criticize the Catholic Church, that the Catholic Church resents the body. That we don't like the body. We think the body is evil. But they are the ones who think that the body is evil. The Catholic Church, like in our sexual teachings, we teach because we value the human body. We value its integrity. And so therefore, we want to protect its dignity. The other people who want us to throw away our bodies are the ones who don't value the body. But they want us to think that we don't like the body, but they do. You see that? We love the body and we value it, and therefore we know how to use it right. If we don't use it right, we repent. Yeah? But the other people tell you just can use the body any way you want because that's what it's meant for. But that's not true. The human body has its particular dignity. It's precisely the human body because of the human soul. Okay, so it's human. The body is human. So it's not like any kind of body. We are not cats. We are not dogs. Our bodies are human. It's not simply matter. It's a human body precisely because we have a human soul. So the body is dignified. So we can't belittle the body and exalt the soul. We are composite. So worship is one of those fundamental acts that affect the whole person. That's why bending the knee before the presence of the living God is something we cannot abandon. We now come to the typical gesture of kneeling on one or both knees. In the Hebrew of the Old Testament, the verb barak, to kneel, is cognate with the word berek, knee. The Hebrews regarded the knees as a symbol of strength. To bend the knee is therefore to bend our strength before the living God, an acknowledgement of the fact that all that we are we receive from Him. This is very important to understand the meaning of the knee biblically. Knees are symbols of strength and power. Like if you have feeble knees, weak knees, you can't carry heavy things. So like ancient, fighters, even fighters today, soldiers, they carry heavy weights. And so that's why they do a lot of training. So you have to have a certain level of strength. Okay? In order, you have to be strong in order to carry those weights. So the knee, your knees have to be strong. Your legs, your knees have to be strong. So when you come before God, we bend the knee, which is a symbol of human strength, and say to God that God, when I come before you, I have nothing to parade before. I have no power. I have no strength to parade before you. So let your power take over. Because your strength is my strength. Without you, I'm nothing. I am weak. So there is no human strength we can parade before God. Our leader, Peter, tried it. You know how he did? Tried it. Jesus told him that all of you will abandon me. And Peter, rolled his sleeves. He said, no, even if it means to die with you, I will die with you. Because I'm a tough guy, So Jesus told him that before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter was parading his human strength before God. And we know how this story ended. It ended in... Yes.
That's the same situation when he was going to protect Jesus, wasn't it? When Jesus called him Satan, get behind me, Satan.
Pardon?
That's a similar act that he did too. He tried it twice.
Yes. He wanted to tell him, Jesus was saying, I'm going to die. Peter said, no, you can't do that. He told him, get behind me, Satan.
Yeah.
Think as men do not. So that is what the bending of the knee is. That God, I can't do your way. I can't be good. My heart cannot be good without you. I cannot rely on my human strength because it can take me on the sofa. And I will fail. It's a sure deal. Without God, we fail. That's why we need Him. So if we want to try it, we look at Peter, a man who saw the miracles Jesus performed, physically with his physical eyes. He heard the preaching, saw the raising of Lazarus from the dead. He saw the transfiguration. He saw all these things. And yet, he wasn't able to stand strong using his human power alone. After seeing all that, the man who raised someone from the dead, who changed water into wine, especially raising someone from the dead, you would say, no, he has power, But Peter, that story is so, I love it when you read it, that God.